Hey there! Ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that's, well, kind of huge. The gospel.
Huge is an understatement.
Right, it's one of those things that's talked about a lot.
Definitely.
But maybe not always fully understood, you know? So we're diving into some sermons by D.A. Carson.
Oh, I like Carson.
Yeah, he's got a way with words, that's for sure. His series is called What is the Gospel and How Does It Work? And he really gets you thinking right off the bat.
So.
Well, he confronts this idea that many people, even those who consider themselves like super religious,
Right.
might not actually grasp the core of the gospel.
It's true, sadly. I've encountered it.
And to illustrate this, he talks about asking seminary students.
Seminary students? Whoa.
Yeah, these are people studying theology, right?
Dang.
Yeah, to define the gospel. And get this, their answers were all over the place.
Oh, wow. That's eye-opening.
It is. And it makes you wonder, have we gotten so used to the language, the jargon almost?
Christianese?
Yes. That we've lost sight of the actual meaning.
It's easy to do, to just go through the motions.
It is. And you know what's really interesting? This isn't just a modern problem. Carson points out how throughout history, the way we've understood and emphasized different aspects of the gospel, it's evolved.
Oh, absolutely. Like different eras of the church focused on certain parts.
Right. He talks about how during the Reformation, it was all about justification by faith.
Makes sense, given the context.
Totally. And then you have the Great Awakening, where the emphasis shifted to the new birth.
The new birth, yeah, that whole idea of being born again.
Exactly. Which, by the way, leads to this hilarious analogy Carson uses.
Oh, I love his analogies. What's this one?
He talks about a born-again Datsun.
Well, what?
A Datsun. Remember those old cars?
Yeah.
He's basically saying that slapping a new label on something doesn't change what it is. Just like calling an old Datsun born again doesn't make it a brand new car.
I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Right. He's saying that true conversion, it's not about superficial changes.
It's much deeper than that. It's about a radical transformation.
Exactly. And this transformation, it's not just about, being a better person or being nice.
Right. It's about addressing something much deeper.
Yes. It's about addressing that inherent human brokenness that separates us from God.
And that's where things get really real.
They do. Because Carson doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. He uses examples like Auschwitz and the Rwandan genocide.
Well, those are heavy hitters.
They are, but he uses them to illustrate the depths of human depravity and to remind us that the gospel isn't just about being a good person.
It's about confronting the very real presence and consequences of sin.
Yes. And this is where it gets really interesting, because Carson dives into Romans 3.
Oh, Ramones. Paul's masterpiece.
Right. And specifically, he focuses on this idea of Christ as the propitiation for our sins.
Propitiation. Now, there's a word that we don't hear every day.
I know, right? It sounds kind of intimidating.
It does, but it's crucial to understanding what Christ accomplished on the cross.
So then what does it mean? Break it down for us.
Okay, so propitiation. In simple terms, it's about satisfying a debt. And in this case, it's a debt that we owe to God because of our sin.
Okay, I'm following so far. But how does Christ's death satisfy that debt?
That's the heart of the gospel message. It's about understanding that God, in his holiness and justice, cannot simply overlook or ignore sin.
So it's not that God is being vengeful, but that sin demands a response.
Exactly. There has to be a consequence. And this is where the concept of propitiation offers such a profound answer.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more.
It's like this. Imagine for a second, and I know this is going to sound a bit lawyer-y, but imagine you owe a massive debt. Like you could never even dream of repaying it, right?
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
But then, out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Yes, someone steps in completely out of the blue and wipes the slate clean, pays it all off, out of love, out of sheer mercy. Mind-blowing, right?
Oh, that's powerful.
That's propitiation in action. See, through his sacrifice, through what happened on the cross, Christ takes that the debt we owe because of sin, onto himself. He takes the hit, takes the consequences we deserve.
So it's not that God's justice is like being appeased, it's that it's fully satisfied. Because Christ takes care of it.
Exactly. And because God's justice is completely satisfied, his mercy, well, it just flows freely to anyone. Anyone at all who puts their faith in Jesus.
So this propitiation thing, it's not just some theological mumbo-jumbo. It's really the core of how we view God, how we understand grace.
It changes everything, how we live our life, the whole shebang.
So, okay, if we're truly redeemed, if that debt's gone, how should that impact, our everyday lives?
Man, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And, Carson's really big on this point. He's always reminding us that being free from that debt, it isn't a free pass to just do whatever we want. It's not like, woohoo, no rules, party time.
It's going to be more than that, right?
Right. It's an invitation, you see. An invitation into a completely new life. It's like getting a second chance, a complete do-over, and naturally wanting to make it count this time.
I like that. So it's not about trying harder to be good. It's about this new life, this transformed way of living. But what does that look like?
It's about getting our hearts pointed in the right direction. It's about eternal treasures. It's about shifting our focus from what's temporary to what lasts forever. Think about it. What do we really prioritize in our lives? How we spend our time, our energy, our money, all of that reveals what we truly value deep down.
It's true. It's like we get so caught up in the day-to-day, chasing after success, recognition, the newest gadgets.
All that fleeting stuff.
Exactly. And we forget about eternity. But if we genuinely really believe in that promise, in a future with God that's more incredible than anything this world can offer,
it should rock our world.
It should totally change our priorities.
100%. And that's where Carson brings in this idea of laying up treasures in heaven. It's not about racking up spiritual brownie points. It's about
getting your priorities straight.
Yes. It's about investing in what truly matters, in what will last.
It's like that parable of the talents, isn't it? Where you don't bury what you've been given, you use it to bless others.
Bingo. You're using what you've been given to further God's kingdom, and the return on that investment, way bigger than anything here on earth.
That's a powerful way to think about it. But let's be real. It's hard to keep that eternal perspective front and center all the time.
Oh, tell me about it. The struggle is real. We're bombarded with messages that completely contradict that way of thinking. Messages telling us to chase after success, wealth, to get it now, to have it all.
It's a daily battle to stay focused.
No doubt. But that's where the true power of the gospel comes in. The transformation we're talking about, it's not just turning over a new leaf. It's like a complete system reboot.
A total rewiring of our desires.
You got it. We start to see the world differently, our relationships, how we spend our time and money, everything, all viewed through this lens of eternity.
It's like we've been given a new pair of glasses, and suddenly we see things with amazing clarity.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of seeing things differently, you know what else Carson brought up that really struck me? This idea that the gospel isn't just about personal change. It has like these massive cosmic implications.
Whoa, okay, now we're talking. Cosmic implications.
Yeah, and that leads us to our next stop on this deep dive, the book of Revelation.
Revelation, huh? Now that's a book that tends to bring some, shall we say, vivid imagery to mind.
You said it. It's not exactly known for its cheerful disposition.
Yeah, more like fiery judgments, cryptic symbols, all that good stuff. So how does Carson approach a book like Revelation, a book that's often misunderstood and, let's be honest, kind of intimidating?
You're right. It can seem pretty intense. But you know what I appreciate about Carson? He doesn't get lost in the weeds trying to decode every single symbol or trying to, predict the end of the world.
Yeah, that's a relief.
Right. Instead, he keeps his eyes on the bigger picture.
So what's the bigger picture then? When it comes to Revelation, what's he wanting us to see?
Hope. Encouragement. You see, beneath all those symbols and visions, Revelation ultimately offers a message of hope to those who believe. And a big part of that is the image of the New Jerusalem.
Okay, the New Jerusalem. It's one of those things you hear about, but what is it really? Is it a literal city, a physical place, or is it more symbolic?
Well, that's the beauty of apocalyptic literature like Revelation. It blends the literal and the metaphorical in a way that's both captivating and thought-provoking. And while there might be a physical aspect to the New Jerusalem, I think what Carson wants us to see is that it represents the ultimate fulfillment of God's redemptive plan.
So it's not just about a change of address, it's about something much bigger.
Exactly. The New Jerusalem, it symbolizes perfect fellowship with God, with each other. It's a picture of wholeness, of restoration. Everything sin messed up will be made right.
So no more tears, pain, death, even.
Yeah.
Wow. It's kind of hard to wrap your mind around, But if we're talking about being restored, being made new, what will we even do there? Will we even be us?
Those are questions that have puzzled theologians for ages. But, one thing Carson points out is that even in the New Jerusalem, there's this vibrancy, this sense of life and creativity. It's not this static, boring existence.
So no harps and clouds.
No offense to harp players.
Yeah.
But it seems like we'll be free to embrace those gifts, those passions that God has put within us.
Yeah.
We'll be free to create, to serve, without the limitations of, well, our current reality.
Wow, that's quite a thought. But with all this talk about a glorious future, about heaven and a new earth, it's easy to get so focused on what's up there that we forget about the down here, the present. So how do we connect this hope, this promise of something so incredible to the very real struggles we're facing right now in our everyday lives?
You hit the nail on the head. It's not just some distant dream or a comforting thought for when times get tough. It's meant to fuel us, to give us strength for today, for right now.
So how do we tap into that? How do we let that future hope energize us in the present?
It's about letting this reality sink deep into our hearts. We have to grasp the weight of it, the new creation, a future free from pain, sorrow, injustice, all of it. When we do that, it changes how we view our present struggles.
It's like we're seeing things through a different lens.
Exactly. And suddenly those struggles, they don't disappear, but they're put into perspective.
It's not that they become less real, it's just that they're not all there is.
You got it. And that realization can be incredibly empowering. It allows us to face challenges with a new sense of courage, with grace even, knowing that our suffering is temporary and that a far greater glory awaits. So as we wrap up this deep dive on the gospel, there's one thing I want you to remember. It's this. The gospel, it's not just a message. It's not a set of beliefs or even just a ticket to heaven. It's an invitation into a story.
God's story.
God's story, a story of redemption, of transformation, of hope that's bigger than we could ever imagine, and a hope that encompasses not just us, not just humanity, but the entire cosmos. And when we embrace that story, when we let it really sink in and shape us, well, that's when we discover true meaning, purpose, and a joy that nothing else can offer.
What a powerful thought to end on. So as you go about your week, let that sink in. The gospel isn't just something we believe, it's a story we're invited to live, and that changes everything.